Ravi Batra is an eminent lawyer, and in this discussion with Lalit Keja, he discusses the impact of Donald Trump's indictment on his re-election bid. This is a New India Abroad video.
Would this case prevent President Trump from running for his re-election?
Well, so there's two. Your question can be answered two ways: a practical answer and a legal answer. So, a practical answer is that President Trump is facing not just this case, but multiple charges.
Right.
There is special counsel Jack Smith's Department of Justice investigation going on. There's the state district attorney in Georgia with state crimes, where President Trump had called the Secretary of State in Georgia saying, "Can't you find me 11,780 votes?" So that is still out there cooking. There are civil cases that are pending against Mr. Trump. So on a practical level, every time Mr. Trump has to be in court, he's not out politicking. Okay, so it does have a consequence because it eats up his calendar. Now, if his lawyers are in court and he's not, then it doesn't matter. But if he has to be in court or he has to give depositions, well, then he's not able to politic because he's got to give his proper obedience to the rule of law. So politically is a different matter, but he's got enough on his plate, legal, both criminal and civil. And I would say one more thing, and this is Alvin Bragg, as I said, has reached the peak of Mount Everest of the rule of law in the United States. Okay. Now that he's done it, that issue is no longer a big deal, right? Because now whoever brings charges against Mr. Trump, it will not be that icebreaker. It will not be that milestone. That milestone's already been reached. So it's going to start to feel, if more charges are brought, and none of us know if they will or won't, and nobody can take joy in any one of among us in our country being charged, because we'd rather have a nation without crime rather than more crime. So nobody can take joy in this. But if there are more charges brought, Mr. Trump is going to start feeling like a piñata, getting hit after hit after hit. And the rule of law has a very unusual way of getting obedience. God works mysteriously, rule of law works transparently. And so we will all see what's going to transpire. So the pugilist in Donald John Trump is going to have to take a back seat. And he's going to have to behave, if not as a Boy Scout, but as close to a Boy Scout, if he wants to save himself from legal jeopardy or from getting into more legal jeopardy. Respect for the rule of law is paramount and non-negotiable. And nobody in society should promote disrespect for the rule of law. So while I'm not happy that a former president stands charged, the charges that Alvin Bragg has brought are very forceful because they're documentary evidence. If somebody was, for example, to videotape another human being killing another human being, and you saw the person pull the gun out, aim at the other person, shoot, and you saw the bullet leave the gun, hit the target, and the person fall down and die, well, it would be very hard for the person accused of that murder of saying, well, I didn't do it. Like that song, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. No, there's a videotape. Well, document evidence here, these 34 counts are like 34 videotapes. They're not, you can't deny that a check was written or an entry was made. So they're nearly incontestable as to the act. But to prove a crime, you need two things: a bad act and a bad mind. Okay? So this case is going to be, after the initial flurry of activity, statute of limitations, venue, things like that, dismiss the case, see if there's any elements missing. After all that initial housekeeping is done, and we get into hand-to-hand combat of trial, this case is going to be all about intent and whether or not the other crime, which is the upgrade trigger, because again, it's a mens rea issue, it's a mind issue, whether or not the intent existed. So this case is going to be all about intent. And when it comes to intent, it's not what you say in court only, it's your text messages, it's your emails, it's the videos that may exist. So things get corroborated in many, many ways. And including press conferences that, President Trump gave before he got elected or after he got elected. So all of this body of evidence is going to be played to a jury and they will decide. So Alvin Bragg's case, half of his case is proven already because it's documentary. It's very difficult to dissuade that, unless you can say that's not my signature, that's a forgery. Okay, could be, but I doubt that's the situation here, but hypothetically you could say that. But so in all likelihood, the hard part of this case is going to be the intent of Mr. Trump. Not anybody else's intent. It's not what Michael Cohen thought Donald Trump was thinking. It's what Donald Trump thought when he was doing the act.
Punishment involved with all these 34 charges?
Well,
in terms of jail term or punishment, other things?
Well, leaving aside the upgrade for the other laws, but the felony misdemeanors, because these are misdemeanors that were upgraded, is 3 years each. But, so technically, can you make them consecutive? Sure. So if out of 34, for example, 2 were, the jury found guilt on and let the others go, because you can also have jury nullification, where the jury sees all the proof, everything is there, and they say, it's too much, So juries can do that too, which is sort of the same power that the courts have in their interest of justice jurisdiction, okay? Although there's a body of thought that jury nullification is a breach of their oath of being a juror. But nevertheless, it's the same idea though, because courts are about doing justice. And we do want only justice done in a court.